in 1885, there was an old corner drug at the corner of 4th and Austin, and Waco wasn't very old. We founded in 1849, but this time, 1885, Waco was really booming. The suspension bridge was 15 years old, and the cattle had kind of moved on up to the Kansas area. And there were still a lot of people coming to Waco. Of course, 1885, when Dr. Pepper was concocted, was 20 years after the Civil War. I guess you could say that Waco was booming and doing pretty well. And a guy named Wade Morrison came to Waco and bought into the old corner drug store. The old corner drug had a soda fountain, and they also concocted and put together medicines. They had pharmacists there. The oldest major soft drink in the nation started when Charlie Alderton put the things together. As they said, it smelled like the old drugstore did, sweet and fruity. And it didn't even have a name for a good while. It was give me one of those or shoot me a Waco. And ultimately, the other drugstores in town started saying, could you let me have some of that syrup too? And it became popular. Mr. Lazenby came on the scene. He was a beverage chemist, and he and Morrison kind of acquired the formula from Mr. Alderton and started making Dr. Pepper. The first place to bottle Dr. Pepper was in Waco, Texas, at 5th and Jackson, one block from where the bottling plant was. 1906 was when this building comes up at the corner of 5th and Mary. And they start distributing it. And so Dr. Pepper grew, and basically for many years it was mainly known in the South. 1923, they expanded into Dallas and ended up with a corporate headquarters up there. Of course, Waco got very involved almost overnight in World War I. And Waco's population at that time, I understand, was around 30,000 people. And within a couple of months, it was essentially doubled. We had a Army training field and Richfield Airfield. They got here in August, and they were National Guard guys. The only uniforms they had from Wisconsin and Michigan was wool, and they were warm. And so one of our historians tells me that his dad said, take these Dr. Pepper's cases out, and he started providing them something that would help. Waco and Dr. Pepper kind of grew up together, but the oldest and sort of a claim to fame for Waco is that they're the home of Dr. Pepper, the oldest soft drink. I kind of continued on until I guess 64 years and one day later, when the tornado hit Waco, May the 11th. It came from the southeast, past what we now fondly say is the silos, the cottonseed oil storage containers. Came right across the First Methodist Church, which kind of laid over the steeple across the railroad tracks. And it got to the Dr. Pepper building, and The walls on that building were 14 inches of solid brick. It was it was a building that was Richardson Romanesque, very unusual type architecture for this part of the world. But they went out, and the cupola and the parapet all went down, and the tornado, of course, continued down and wiped out everything from 4th to 5th Street on Franklin and Austin Avenue. And the Amical building did a little bit of a dance, but stayed. I think that that could have very well been the end of the home of Dr. Pepper. But somehow or another they kind of patched it up and did not restore it. They just kind of closed it in and continued to bottle there for several years, and then moved out on Franklin. But we could have been without the original home of the nation's oldest soft drink. Fortunately, that did not take place. So we survived a level 5 tornado. 114 people were tragically killed that day. And the impact on hitting the heart of Waco at almost 4:30 in the afternoon was devastating. But fortunately for us, the building survived. It was ultimately just an empty building, except for pigeons and hobos and cats chasing the pigeons and that sort of thing for a long time. At that birthday party, Dr. Pepper's 100th birthday, and they invited for entertainment was Bob Hope. And Bob put on a good show, and you know, he was the one that as he was performing said he wondered what's in Dr. Pepper, what makes it up, and he'd heard that there was prune juice in Dr. Pepper, and he said, I really don't know whether there is or not. The truth of the matter is that there's not prune juice in Dr. Pepper. However, it is composed of a number of kind of natural fruit flavors. It's a little sweeter than some of the other carbonated drinks. The chairman of the board was a man named W.W. Foots Clements, and he had a dream, and his dream was that we would restore that building at 5th and Mary and make it into a world-class museum to recognize the soft drink industry. And also he wanted that to be in part not just a museum, but what he referred to was a free enterprise institute. And the idea about that was that he wanted to give young people coming along, as he termed it, a running start in life. And he felt like that the free enterprise system that we take for granted was not just an automatic thing, that they needed to learn to appreciate it. Clements and I sat down on the steps of the empty and abandoned Dr. Pepper Manufacturing and Bottling Company, and he was a good salesman. And he said, now what we need to do is restore this and create the soft drink industry museum. And his point and idea in it was not just to recognize Dr. Pepper, but the entire soft drink industry. Since Coke and Pepsi's homes were gone, we would be recognizing them along with others like 7-Up and Big Red. And he made a pretty good case for that. But you look at the building, and it was a real task that we had to consider. And corporately, Dr. Pepper said, we'll help. We'll give you the building. We'll give you some money. But it's going to take more than we can do. And so we want the city of Waco and the community here to partner with us. And it was that point that I think was a major turning point for Waco and for Dr. Pepper, because we formed a unique partnership. The chamber appointed a task force. The task force began to meet people like Cullen Smith, who was on the council at that time, and folks including Bill Falco with the city planning department, and the director of Parks and Recreation developed a synergy and a plan. In September of 1987 is the date that we went up to corporate headquarters to show them this is what we would like to do with you. And we formed a 501c3 corporation and continue to work on the plans. And they in turn said, we'll do this with you. And thus started a partnership that has resulted in the actual opening of the first phase of the museum on May the 11th. Not an incidental date that we picked, of 1991. I can still see in my mind the line of people going down the street all the way to Austin Avenue and up to the 5th and Mary doors to come in. And it was a warm day, but 10,000 people were wanting to be inside and see what this was all about. And at that point, we had completed the exterior restoration, restoring the scar in the side of the building, adding the detailed windows and the cupola and all of that back, so that the unique character of the building was restored. We had to leave the color of the brick in a different color slightly than the original, so that we could show through the State Historic Commission that had happened. The building was named to the National Registry of Historic Buildings, and we've continued to evolve and expand and celebrate being the home of the nation's oldest major soft drink. And the bottling industry, the people at Coke and 7-Up and others have said, well, gee, we don't have a museum. Coke has a fantastic one over in Atlanta. But the soft drink industry in Beverage World magazine begins to tell the people in the industry the Smithsonian of the soft drink industry. And in fact, that's what's occurred. We began to evolve. We added an animatronic like they have in Disneyland and Disney World. The inventor is an animatronic man in there with his cigar, and he talks about inventing Dr. Pepper. And the children come in and look at him, and he looks so real that they kind of back off a little bit. But we recreated the bottling line. Bottling Dr. Pepper was invented in 1885, but you could only get it or Coke had a fountain. They could draw you a Dr. Pepper, but they couldn't keep it in the bottle. By 6 years, 1891, they were able to enclose it and cap it so you could take it home with you. And that's when it began to expand. We added a second floor with antique truck and exhibits all the way to the third floor, where we recreated the Free Enterprise Institute auditorium, and Foots Clement's office was moved. He had passed away, but it was moved in there just like it was when he passed away in Dallas. It's been an ongoing effort, but it's been an effort of love. And the thing that I guess is most fulfilling and rewarding to me is that this unique partnership of a community and a city and corporate entities, people all over, have accomplished something together that individually one or the other probably would not have succeeded in doing. And it's our challenge now to continue the partnership and to work together and remember who's in charge.